Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. I'd much rather be the last session before lunch than the first session after lunch. So thank you all for staying. We're going to have a really exciting panel. We were sort of met earlier, and there was quite a lot of debate. So this isn't going to be one of these panels where everyone agrees with everybody else. My name is Joe Haslam, and I'm a professor at the IE Business School in Madrid. I teach on two things. I teach on exponential organizations, a course called $1 Trillion Challenges, which talks about healthcare and education and how we can solve those problems. And I also teach a course on how to scale up companies. As we say, scaling up companies is much harder than starting companies. So those are the sort of my interests. My function here today, though, is as a moderator, which is a word no one would ever accuse me of. I'm anything if not moderate. But my role today really is just to keep time and let the discussion happen. So what we have is a very interesting situation now. We have 4 people who are, don't live in the country in which they were born. So we have Liz from Ireland, who lives in Spain. We have Andra from Estonia, who lives in Hamburg. We have Jospehine from France, who lives in the UK. And finally, we have Natalia from Slovakia, who lives in Prague. So the order of the speakers is going to be Liz, Andra, Natalia, and Jospehine, who are going to give up to 8 minutes of a keynote talking about building ecosystems and talking about their countries. And then hopefully we'll have a few minutes for Q&A afterwards. So in your own time then, Liz, thanks a lot.
Hi there, thanks Joe, and thanks a million for being here, folks. I know we're running a little bit of time. I hope you got lunch before you could sit down and join us, and thanks a million, Samar and the team in Banque du Liban for the invitation. So excited to be here. It's my first time here, so I'm super excited to be in Lebanon and visiting Beirut. I think I was born to live in the Mediterranean, but originally from wet, cold, damp, green Ireland, beautiful place. But the weather's absolutely terrible, but the people are fun, so that's nice. And I find myself in Madrid in these recent years. So we've had a lot of data-driven discussions here, which is super interesting, but I'm just going to change the tone a little bit and just simply tell my story and some of the experiences and lessons that I've learned in the different ecosystem development initiatives that I've been involved in. So first of all, entrepreneurship does not mean ecosystems. I just want to get that out of the way because we are seeing a boom in activity, and Mike mentioned it earlier, but running events is not building an ecosystem. It's certainly an interesting part of the puzzle, but it's really focused about the entrepreneur, right, and actually what they're doing. And what they're doing is building products to sell to customers, and ideally looking to do that and scale that on a global level. So just to be really clear in defining the different activities. But what we are seeing is that entrepreneurship is an interesting economic development tool. Right? So the best entrepreneurs are going to go ahead with or without an ecosystem. We've seen that happen. We've seen Europe's biggest exit with Skype, and there certainly wasn't a flourishing ecosystem in Estonia at the time. That will happen. But what we've learned is that entrepreneurship is a super interesting economic development tool. This is why governments, banks, corporates is now suddenly taking shape and taking notice and realizing that there's serious money to be made here. VC-backed companies in the US account for 21% of GDP, which is significant when you think there's only 3,000 to 6,000 companies backed by VC every year. So it's a tiny niche market with a massive economic impact, and this is why we're all here today. And 11% of private sector jobs, which is pretty astounding. So when I come to the ecosystem development conversation, I'm coming from the basis, and this assumption, which might be wrong, is that if we increase activity in entrepreneurship, we will also increase results. And that's what ecosystem development is about for me. Entrepreneurship is a series of experiments, right? Most of them fail. Right? And that's okay, but we got to increase volume of activity if we're actually going to have more positive results. So here's some thoughts and some things that I've been involved in recent years. First of all, it's going with gut. If you're by nature starting out in an emerging ecosystem, you're going to be implementing a lot of activities, making a lot of connections with different players in the market, which that came soon, ruined my punchline. But you need your gut because you're not going to be sure about what you're doing, and that's actually similar to entrepreneurship, right? If you're not following your gut, you won't have the conviction to make it happen. I was in Dublin working in venture capital, involved in setting up a bunch of business angel syndicates, meeting with entrepreneurs and interesting investors on a daily basis and doing really exciting things in an awesome city surrounded by friends and family. What more could you want, right? But I was completely miserable. And it was a different type of gut feeling that I had that I actually tried to suppress. I thought that logic could kind of take over from the heart, but it really couldn't. And this was me in Dublin, working in venture capital, doing really exciting deals, because this is where I wanted to be. And I had left my heart in Madrid, and I spent 3 years convincing myself that I didn't want to be in Madrid, that I wanted to be in Dublin, and that absolutely didn't work out. And what's funny, my resistance to go back to Spain, that, by the way, is my new husband, obviously, so I went back to Spain thinking it would be a sabbatical, right? What was I going to do in Madrid apart from drink sangria and eat tapas, right? This terrible, like, stereotypical situation. And of course, the IE students here today, of course, have lived that life as well and understand what I'm talking about. But I was so career-driven. I'm so mission-driven. I said, love is not enough for me. I want it all, right? And my biggest fear was that my career wouldn't advance in Spain. And of course, the complete opposite happened. I went with my gut, I took an absolute leap, and it actually accelerated my own personal development and career. And that's been a really important learning for me that I'm trying to implement in everything else and the hard decisions that you make in life. But this is what it feels like. You're going against the grain, you're not sure what to do, so your only signal a lot of the time can be the gut. And similar to that, sometimes your biggest fear is actually your biggest opportunity. And I've seen that in ecosystem development. Like, we're always trying to carve out something new within the ecosystem to try and make it work for everybody. And that's actually not easy either. A couple of years back, we launched an initiative at IE Business School, which is called Venture Network. And these were regular meetups for entrepreneurs and investors to actually just meet each other over a few beers and practice their pitch. There's not one platform in Spain, and I haven't really seen them anywhere else, where you can come and simply practice your pitch and get expert feedback from investors without asking them for money, without trying to prove that your company's awesome and put on this fake facade to fundraise. No, it's saying, this is my message, how do I work it and get it better? Now, I was terrified about this initiative because I had come from venture capital. It was like, you are going to get me to sit down and see any entrepreneur walk through the door, tell me their business every single week. I was like, I want to shoot myself. My job is trying to look at 100 companies and get it down to one that we're going to invest in. It's extremely curated. And this is the opposite. Venture Network almost had no filter. And of course, that was its success factor. It's super informal, so nobody's under the onus of having to do business. So what happens is people are just themselves and much better relationships are built. And not only that, we have some incredible companies, some of the strongest like flying startups out of Spain, like TicketBiz, Cabify, Blink Booking was sold, Tourist was sold as well last year, have come through this process because they're awesome entrepreneurs and they're like, hey, I don't want to join your startup competition. I know I can fundraise, but actually I do need to practice my pitch, and this is a handy place to do it, right? And we had over 100 events in the first 2 years of launching Venture Network, with 350 startups come through the process, and over a community of like 1,500 people that now regularly turn up to these events, and it's become an interesting networking opportunity in Madrid, and it's still going on today. The main focus of trying to build an effective ecosystem is trying to get all the people to the table. Right? Mike mentioned earlier, the only one that matters is the entrepreneur. That's the only individual that matters. So if you're not creating value to the entrepreneur through your ecosystem development activities, it's irrelevant. You can scrap them now. But you do have to deal with the other players, right? So you're really become quite diplomatic. And even though I'm clear that the core of the ecosystem is the entrepreneur is not always right, okay? And a lot of these companies and these people from different parts of the ecosystem speak very different languages. So it can be extremely difficult for an entrepreneur, an early stage startup, to talk to a corporate. But the corporate might just have access to data and technology that is super useful for that startup. And that's where ecosystem development people and more independent operators come quite useful and facilitate those conversations, and that's exactly what we do at South Summit. So South Summit is a team that I'm working with. It's a conference that we run out of Madrid. Alex is involved. It's one conference over 3 days inside the old bullring of Madrid. And what we do is we connect 100 of the top innovators from the region, from across the Mediterranean and Latin America, to content and customers and capital, because we believe that they're the three things that can help them be more successful and help more startups be more successful. The big outlier success stories are going to do it anyway. They don't need our conference or any other conference, but this is how we're connecting the ecosystem. And finally, just a last point, because I want to move on and let these amazing ladies get on stage. It's just about throwing out the rule book. A number of years ago, in 2009, we launched the first national network of business angel syndicates in Ireland. And our role was to build groups of business angels that would invest together, small groups, like an angel fund, like 10, 15 people who would commit to put in $500,000 each and do 10 deals over the next 2 to 3 years. So we were connecting angels so they could operate like a VC. Because the problem with angel investing is that it's so informal, it's not the full-time job, it can be really hard to get access to the good deals and operate in a really professional manner or make strategic investment decisions and operate through a thesis like a VC would. And we thought, hey, this is easy. This is no problem. Angels, entrepreneurs, connect them, deals. Simple. No. It was a freaking nightmare. This is us herding cats. It was a nightmare. We had investors that didn't know how to invest. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what terms were acceptable. We had angel investors thought they should have a majority of the company early on. We had entrepreneurs that didn't know how to pitch. They were giving themselves ridiculous valuations. They're like, yeah, we've no revenue, but I think we're about €7 million. People didn't know how to get these transactions done. So for the first 12 months of the initiative, we were educators. We were running master classes for business angels on how to invest, how to diversify your portfolio, how to develop an investment thesis. And likewise on the entrepreneur side, we had spent hours and hours with each team that we filtered and selected to come through to actually present themselves in a way that made sense to the investor. Again, because these guys are speaking different languages. And I'm just going to hop swiftly along to the very last one, where I landed in Spain 5 years ago, and the biggest challenge was the culture. And I thought that was something that wouldn't change, right? Spain is really conservative, really traditional. Sorry, Alex, I know there's the exception, but traditionally, right? It's a monarchy. 45 years ago, it was under dictatorship, right? There's a lot of nuances in the market that influence culture, and I thought, this is never going to change. And actually, that's what changed significantly. This is King Felipe of Spain, who gave out our awards at South Summit just in October this year. And small subtleties make massive impact in changing culture. The entrepreneurs were like, I don't care about the king. I don't need to get my award from the king. I want an investor. I want a customer. And this might not help you get an investment from Sequoia, but it will definitely help you on Sunday afternoon when you go to the family's home for lunch, you meet your grandmother, and finally she's like, now I get what you're doing. You're the little project, the hobby you had about not finding a job for the last 3 years because you were in your room building this thing. Oh my God. It finally makes sense, and that's the impact on culture that really can happen through small details and initiatives like this. And I'm going to literally leave the rest. The ecosystem is booming. It's awesome, because I'm going to hand over to Joe, because we're way out of time here, but thanks a million, folks.
Okay, thanks a lot, Liz. That was really brilliant. Living in Madrid as I do, I can only recommend the South Summit. I'll recommend you all come to Madrid and come to the South Summit. Next speaker we have is Andra. Yay!
Thanks very much.
Come on, cheers!
I'm Estonian. Do you know, do I get a
sticker?
Yeah, thanks. Do you know how big Estonia is in comparison to Lebanon? We are 4 times bigger than you guys. Do you know how many people we have? $1.3 million people. We are so small that we call ourselves a startup country. And why I'm talking about this, I came here with a totally different idea of what I'm going to talk about. And I arrived here on Tuesday afternoon. I fell in love with everything what you have here. And I started to talk to people. And it came out that actually people maybe want to hear about Estonian story. Because apparently, I understand you guys have at the country level the same challenge, what we had. So I would like to share with you a little bit our journey. Why I'm doing that is I've been working with very, very many countries to help them to EU over the last decade. And in parallel also had a chance to be in the movement of the business model canvas and the business model generation book. And I've been trying with a couple of startups myself. I've been actually running the Dutch business of one of the, let's say, celebrity startups, Taxify, which is a taxi app, sort of Uber, but it operates in Baltics. And I was also a part of one very interesting project now, 4 years or 5 years ago, which was called Estonian Vision 2018. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So after we were liberated, if I can say, or became independent again as a country in 1991, we had a very simple question. What do we want to do as a country? We are so small that we need to better know where we are going to move. We cannot move everywhere. And we saw all our neighbors, the Scandinavian neighbors who are just across the sea. We were really hungry to catch up as soon as we can. So what was our journey? Where did it start? Why did Estonia become an e-Estonia? And it started in 1996 with a project called Tiger Leap. The idea was to bring an internet and computer lab to every single school. This project is still ongoing. It has, at some point it was to the military services, and so right now, literally, you're going to the forest in Estonia and you see the sign Wi-Fi. It's maybe a little bit scary, but this is awesome. And really the connectivity is fantastic. So we started with that, making sure that there is connectivity and computers available for every single school, every single student. And we started to develop based on that. So at some point, our government understood the need to start building a country-level system, and we call it X-Road. So it is technological solution where the different databases can connect to each other, both public and private. So what are the benefits is that there is not one system what we are working. You can just add the different elements. For example, if a public body wants to put some service online, and I can assure you right now everything is online, you just choose the tool which suits you. There is no one single owner. The costs are, I think we are paying for the entire project right now maybe 50 million a year. So not so much at the country level. There were a lot of things. So when we had a platform, we started to add e-health, e-governance, our e-tax filing. Our government is fully paperless. There's not one paper. We have right now even the draft laws online. Mobile parking came. Now it covers from health to transport, from politics to education. And it is all available for us as Estonians. What was very big importance, I think, with our entire project was in 2007, I don't know if you guys remember, but we were having very large cyber attacks to all our biggest banks and government portals from Russia. So I remember I was at the time, I was consulting Czech Republic with their EU accession, and I could not access any sites, so we were closing down the entire, so it was only Estonians who were able to access the banks and other systems or ministerial websites. So then we understood that we are very vulnerable, and right now, based on this experience, Estonia is one of the, let's say, the cybersecurity is one of the strongest in the entire world. So based on that, NATO also decided to move their IT department to Estonia. A lot of projects have been, of course, initiated around that. We have 1.3 million people, and of course, not everybody is a programmer. Maybe it looks like that, but trust me, it's not like this. So we've been having a very interesting project in 2009 when, or actually 2009-10, I call it Estonian Vision 2018. The leading thinkers from academia, from business, from a business and came together from governance, and we were thinking, where do we move? I was actually facilitating at the time the Estonian business model 2018, so closely involved with this project. What the idea was that we need to find the focus. As a small country, we need to find the focus so that in everything is aligned, from education to subsidy systems, to our tax system, and so on. Of course, the vision itself covered the entire spectrum, from health to social systems to environment protection, that we want to be a green country. But that was very, for me, interesting project where we as a country really decided on our focus points for the next quite immediate future to come. I say that right now in Estonia there's e-madness. I don't find any other name for that. We have, literally, I have not been myself physically for 2 years in Estonia. All my companies are still in Estonia. I am trying to be still Estonian resident because it's easy. So these systems really facilitate me being a global citizen, yeah? So I would like to maybe point out that what this focus means. I would like to talk about the focus on the IT. So it is not only that there is some kind of bunch of startups who are creating e-solutions, no. Not only business, yes, is aligned, but we have our regulations make sure that we are enabling the growth and all kind of ICT-related services. Our public policy is supportive. Our tax system is supportive and aligning that if you, as a company, come to Estonia, that you have a favorable tax system. And first and the last is education. Right now, we introduced a non-mandatory programming course from the age of 6. So everything is aligned. We are involving all parties. That is another, I think, for me, very important point. And that has given rise to the fact that we have right now, in a country of 1.3 million people, over 400 startups, which means 32 point something companies per 100,000 people. And that has been happening over the last 10 years, basically. We have, our funding rounds right now there are, I think, 30 deals per year, around like that. Each round, 100,000. So, and you see the hunger, because we know that our policies and tax systems and everything is driving the startup ecosystem. Our people are hungry. It's when I now go back to Estonia, I see this fantastic change. And I remember where I came from in 2002 when I left Estonia. So I think that every country can do that, and especially Lebanon as a small country. These are the lessons learned from Estonia, but actually for me, and based on my discussions, I see that there is so much talent here. So you are much further away when we were 20 years ago. So it just needs a very strong leader, and not only one person, but the pool of people to take this project further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrea. That was all about Estonia. I have to say, this is all really cool, standing up here with the big screens and the microphones and the cameras and the noise. It's all very exciting stuff. Okay, Natalia's going next, are you? Is that right?
Yes.
I thought I got the order wrong. Okay, brilliant. Okay, our next speaker is a Slovakian who lives in Prague, Natalia. Yeah.
It's really hard to follow these two beautiful ladies, so I hope I'm not going to bore you guys. So I'm here today to talk to you guys about the ecosystem of Slovakia. My name is Natalia Kiskova. I'm actually a growth manager at Bluewolf, which is an IT consulting firm. I'm also a board member of a Women in IT organization. And I'm also the daughter of the president of Slovakia. So why I'm here today is what I'm going to try to do is put Slovakia on a map. So Mike was the lucky one who was there 2 weeks ago. And he was talking about how beautiful Bratislava is. But Slovakia has a big potential, and I want to talk to you guys about it. So for a lot of you, this is Europe. And from my experience, around 50% of people actually know that Slovakia exists. And out of that 50%, only around 1% can actually locate where on the map is it. So that's us. We're this tiny little country in between Czech Republic, Poland, Ukraine, and other countries. So let's play a little game. So I'm going to tell you a bit of Slovakia in a tiny game. So number 5. So what do you think this number represents? So that's the number of startups we have in Slovakia. So what I mean by real startups is startups that have 5 to 7% growth a week. So high growth startups that actually, if you think about it, if a startup earns around $1,000 a week, in 4 years it can be around $25 million business. So we have 5 of those that have the potential. 1, that's the number of years, since we have first law passed to support startups. So this year, actually, we were allowed to finally have stock options. So yeah, Slovakia is growing. 5, another 5. That's the amount of people we have. So we are actually quite a big country, but no one knows about us. No one talks about Slovakia. There's no negative press. There's no positive press. We're just not on the map. And 1.4, so that's million of euros that government spent to host 5-day startup conference. Yes, we are corrupted. So I said a lot of negative things about Slovakia, but if you think about it, Slovakia has been around only for around 13 years. We were Czechoslovakia before, and before that we were part of the Soviet Union. So we're a new country that's trying to learn how to work in this ecosystem and to become something like maybe Lebanon, or just to build an ecosystem that could actually work. And my dad has been doing a great job of actually putting Slovakia in a startup map. So last year he took all of our startups and entrepreneurs, which was not many, to New York, and they talked about actually putting Slovakia on a map. So what he said is we're on our way from iron to silicon. And sorry that I keep on doing this, but there are a lot of flies around here. So yes, we are on our way, and our people are trying to put ourselves on a map and create a startup ecosystem. So what makes it a successful ecosystem? Who decides if Silicon Valley is this? How did it become what it is? So actually, ecosystems are ecosystem because its elements function of proximity. This is a quote from my good friend Kika. She said this because if you think about it, so there was a survey conducted with the 200 of the biggest companies in revenue in the whole world. 38% of these companies actually started innovation centers. And those 38% of the companies, 68 of those are actually is in Silicon Valley. And why Silicon Valley? Because of the people. So the environment that Silicon Valley created spurs innovation. Entrepreneurs are fighting. They're trying to innovate. They help each other. They share knowledge. So this is what makes an ecosystem. And proximity, the closeness of the people, spurs in the moment. There's this great guy called Brad Feld. So he wrote a book, so I'm not reinventing a wheel, I just use what he actually said. And there are 3 pillars that actually make a successful ecosystem. So it's economics, sociology, and geography. So economic, it's the investors, the accounting, the mentors, the startups. So we have some of that. We have around 10 collaborative spaces. We have around 3 incubators. We have, I think, 1 accelerator. Yes, we're coming somewhere. But what we have is a lot of investment. So 50% of our investors are actually saying that we have money, but we have nowhere to invest. So what are we doing wrong? If this works. Geographical, if you guys think about it from the map, you guys see where we are located. We have great location. We have Poland next to us. Poland is booming. We have Czech Republic. We can work with anyone. So why are we still not the ecosystem that no one talks about? Why is startup not Slovakia known for its startups? The problem is in our sociology. So in Brad Feld's book, he defines sociology as a horizontal excess of information, so that, let's fly, that actually they work together and they spread information, they share information and share innovation. What our people are not and this is coming from socialistic countries, so anyone who is here from socialistic country will understand this. If I have an idea, I'm not going to share it. I'm going to keep it to myself, and because I want the success. I want to be the one who came up with the idea. I'm not going to share my knowledge with anyone else. So we don't have really mentors. We don't spread the innovation. We try to keep it for ourselves. That's our mentality. That's the Slovak mentality we have. So in some cases, that's one of our problems, right? We don't share knowledge. Another one is people are reliant on government. They think government is going to solve all of our issues. Why should we, start our own companies? Why should we do anything? Government should pay for everything, for infrastructure, for insurance. But that's not the case, right? We're not in 1989 anymore. We need to do something differently. And the mentality needs to change from people. It needs to come from people like me. It's coming from a person like my father, who's the president. And it's changing, but we are just at the beginning. So one thing that you guys have and we don't is the fighting in your blood. Whenever I talk to anyone from Lebanon, they sell Lebanon. They sell everything. They sell Beirut. They sell the food. It's like I feel like I'm getting pitched at all the time about Lebanon. But actually, if you ask a Slovak person about Slovakia, they say, well, don't really visit. Go to Czech Republic or go to Hungary. Really? Like, what kind of mentality is this that we have? So something that we are missing is this fighting spirit. Like, even though you guys are even smaller than us, you guys are present. People know about Lebanon. People know about Beirut. No one knows about Slovakia. And I think there are a lot of people that are trying to change that, and I'm definitely one of them. So that's it. I just wanted to tell you guys a bit about our culture, and I hope now, even though it's maybe like 20 of you here, even the 20 people that know about Slovakia, it's still more than, at the beginning of this presentation. So thanks, guys.
Hey, brilliant. Thank you very much. Hey, Natalia. Brilliant. Okay, our last speaker, Jospehine.
Thank you. Hello. So, thank you, Mike Butcher, for saying that an ecosystem relies on entrepreneurs, because this is what they rely most on. And I'll go a bit further. I'll say they rely on talent. A startup ecosystem relies on talent. And I'll go a little further. All of these guys, they represent Silicon Valley, right? They built Silicon Valley, part of them. The founder of eBay, founder of Apple, if you didn't know, founder of Google. I didn't put Mark Zuckerberg there because all of them have something in common. They're all from a different country, or a migrant or a son of a migrant. And that's my point here. Migrants are valuable to your ecosystem if you want to build a startup ecosystem. 75% of the companies that were funded by American venture capital had one core foreign-born team member, such as a CEO, CTO, or VP, or engineering. 40%, That's almost 50. That's almost half. Of Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants or sons of immigrants. And 1 out of 7, that's for the US, but if you look at the UK, it's the same. 1 out of 7 entrepreneurs in the UK is a migrant. And then on average in the world, migrants are 2 times more entrepreneurial than natives. My point, immigrants are great. Immigrants are awesome. Hi, my name is Jospehine. I work for Migrate, Director of Partnerships there. We have built a platform to help move talent across the world. We do this by providing an online service, an online visa assistant, and also content for everyone that wants to migrate to Europe or the US and want to work for a startup or work for a more corporate company. We are, as such, an online media and also a financial service group focused on addressing the needs of the world's migrant diaspora. We provide trusted and fair, reliable information in 12 languages. Arabic is one of them, French also, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, obviously. And we're trying to reach this community of 750 million people around the world that are migrants. They're living in a country that they were not born in. So, as I said earlier, there's a huge proportion of entrepreneurs that are migrants. 1 out of 7 in the UK, 40% of Fortune 500 companies in the US were funded by immigrants or son of immigrants. And working with Migrate for the last 3 years, we've looked at our data and we've seen that there's a surge of the number of people moving now across borders, not to work for big corporates, but to work for startups. And a huge move from entrepreneurs fed up of not being offered the option to build a company in their country and moving abroad. So what does it look like? It looks like the world is changing and there are countries trying to race to attract entrepreneurs, the first so that they can get the talent before you can get it or just get it from your country. So here are the main countries, and not all of this. We're lacking now Israel that has added an entrepreneur visa, and we're lacking Korea here. But you have 15 countries in the world that have, in the past decade, introduced an entrepreneur or startup visa. What does that mean? It's a fast-track system for entrepreneurs to move to a country, settle there, find a support network, and start a company and be successful in that country. So, as you can see, the US is announcing a visa, but we're still not sure if it's going to happen. But we put it still on the map because this is one of the most attractive, in terms of number and volume, country for entrepreneurs. So I want to go into details, and I can talk about hours about what are the different program offering, and there's no best. It's about, you don't attract entrepreneurs because there's a visa. People don't come, oh, there's a visa for me, I'm coming. No, they come because there's an ecosystem behind. But at the back of it, you need to let the door open. So I'll just talk about 2, and then I have a comparison sheet here with all the different programs, and I still need to add Israel on there and Korea, yeah. But there are 2 programs that just started that are very specifically targeted to tech entrepreneurs and tech startups as such, not just for the person that founds the company, but also the whole team. And that's in Italy, and that's in Paris. For Paris, what's really interesting, they've launched this May, and I'll be just really quick. It's the French tech ticket, and we had the honor yesterday to talk about this. We had the ambassador talking about this. It is amazing because the French have said, well, we want to give money to foreign entrepreneurs, and we only accept, out of the team of 3 people that will apply to that program, 1 French person. If there's more than 1 French person, we won't give the money. And this program, if you get in, will give you a fast-track visa process to France and start your company, and will give by person on the team, so 3 people, 12,500 euros per person. So you multiply this, and this is renewable, so it's actually 25,000 pounds that you can get for a year in France per person funding your team if you get on this. Italia startup visa, sort of similar, and what's really interesting about it is, so they want to attract entrepreneurs that are ready to start in Italy and make the brand Made in Italy successful, but also successful in the world. And the whole process for the visa is in English. You don't have to do it in Italian. It's how progressive they are about and aggressive they are about bringing foreigners. And then you have all the others. I won't go in details. But basically, if you want to have a categorization of all of this visa, we've done a report on this at Migrate because so many entrepreneurs were asking us, I can't navigate, like there's so many startup visa, which is the best country for me, which is the easiest. So basically, yeah, there's 3 types of visa, and if you're starting a ecosystem and building a startup ecosystem, you should consider one or the other, depending on where you are. If you're a very attractive country to entrepreneurs like Australia, Canada, UK, and people will come no matter what because they know they want to start and it's easy, then you want to build a whole new section of visa with very tight restriction and with a money threshold. If you are a country that is trying to create a whole ecosystem and sort of welcome entrepreneurs to build your brand, to build like French tech tickets, so we want you to build like successful companies that can echo the French brand or the Italian brand, then you want to have a fast-track visa that get in people and then a program in the long term, 6 months a year. But then you have Chile and Canada that have just created a whole startup program that is subsidized by the government. So the government is giving money, not for Canada, but for Chile. I'll just go a few minutes on this. Chile is giving money for foreign entrepreneurs to start a company in Chile for 6 months a year. Now, what are the results of this for Chile, right? Because if the money of the taxpayer is getting in the hands of foreign entrepreneurs, then you want to see the reward for the country. So there's a lot of controversy, and there's no, yes, they're successful, no, they're not successful, they're actually buying entrepreneurs. What we can say about Startup Chile is, after 5 years, they've attracted 2,000 entrepreneurs worldwide to their country in 5 years. And then they've brought $110 million in their country in 5 years, invested in those companies. 15% of entrepreneurs going through the program are going forward and building a company. And more interestingly, you had 17% applicants or successful applicants that were Chilean on the first year in 2011. Nowadays, you have 27%. Same thing, you have, in terms of Latin Americans applying and getting in the program, you had 33% at the beginning. Nowadays, you have 50%. So they've started creating this emerging ecosystem for the whole Latin America. They have created a startup scene, a startup ecosystem that people look at on the map in the world. If Lebanon is interested in creating a startup ecosystem and growing it, maybe that fast, you might want to consider that policy. You'll see, but, and we can discuss that later. But that's quite impressive for the whole region. Chile has brought all these Latin Americans to start in Chile and not in Rio and not in Bogota. So yeah, that's my point. If you want to grow startup ecosystems, you just have to welcome the talent, no matter what. You have in-house talent, you have out-house talent, bring it, have them dialogue, have them trained, have them share best practice. You need the immigrants, you need them to build your country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Jospehine, and thank you to Liz and Andra and Natalia. We have about 10 minutes just to have a quick Q&A, because I'm sure there was issues that each wants to comment on each other's presentation. I guess, Liz, I'm going to start with you. Do you think there is such thing as a model for Europe, a sort of a startup ecosystem model for Europe?
Thanks, Joe. I think, I don't know, and I don't even feel qualified to comment, but I'll just share my own opinions and experience.
Thanks, Liz.
Sorry. Sorry, that's an Irish thing. We apologize for everything, for being born. So I think Europe is getting there, right? And just one thing that I've learned, I know what you think, guys. First of all, I'm operating in Spain right now and hopefully helping what's going on there. And we've seen massive, massive growth. Venture capital in Spain has doubled in 2 years, from $250 million to $500 million invested this year in Spain. So there's really interesting things happening. But I believe that you don't need a complete ecosystem in every single country and every single city, right? Nobody's going to replicate Silicon Valley, and I think Europe is actually doing okay in terms of, I'm okay that London is the financial venture capital hub for Europe. I'm okay with that. I mean, if in 20, 30 years there's larger funds like Index or Baldwin, whoever it might be, out of Madrid, out of Barcelona, awesome. But actually, it's a 2-hour flight. You're not going to have a fully developed ecosystem like you have in Silicon Valley in every single European country. That's absolute madness. So I think our challenge is just connecting those hubs better, right? So now we're seeing, and I don't know if it's true, but we're seeing massive trend in Central and Eastern Europe, right? Access to engineering talent and developers, right? Which is a huge shortage in other parts of Europe. So if we can just connect those dots better, I think we're doing pretty well. And I think that's our challenge, so.
Okay, cool, Liz. Andra, I was going to ask you, Estonia's model in terms of e-government and, as you call it, e-madness, do you think that's appropriate for other countries in Europe?
Does e-living make life easy?
So could you see it working in other countries in Europe, or do you think?
I think it makes easy, so I think it should be appropriate for every country. So I think that we are talking about here very specific needs, what nowadays people have. So if we look at the normal business, so where do you start? So you start understanding if there is a need for your product. And if you ask that whether the e-governance would be, that's an option for the other countries, I think that there is a need in every single country to be a global citizen, to be doing their tax online, not to go to the ministries, stand in a queues, etc. And we know that the tools are there. And actually, Estonian systems are right now already operate, the different systems are operated already in 40 countries.
I'm going to jump in, Joe, because I think there's an amazing opportunity there, right? I completely disagree. I think screw Europe and its e-systems. Let's literally all go to Estonia.
Yay.
Right? So Estonia should
Estonia!
be... Let's just go to Estonia. Why not make Estonia the Delaware of Europe,
Wow.
right? Every US company...
Someone writing this down, yeah.
looking for venture capital is incorporated in Delaware, not Texas, not Ohio, not New York, not wherever. And all of the international companies repatriating in to raise money from Silicon Valley are incorporating in Delaware. So that's awesome. You incorporate in Estonia. Let's all do that. Let's let it be Bermuda for Europe, whatever it might be.
And
we get our VCs from London. We get some engineers from Eastern Europe.
You know, so we have this e-residency now, so everybody can apply for e-residency, establish a company in Europe, and have access to all our services, what I was talking about. So, welcome to Estonia.
Okay. It's true, actually. I mean, as Europeans, we're not even aware of a lot of the rights that the EU gives us, you know, and it takes living in other countries and hearing things about, but you actually have an awful lot of rights in terms of if you're in one member state to go live and work and use services, and you can like work in one country, set up a company in another, get married in another. You know, there's all sorts of fun you can be had.
If you are making a survey of how many entrepreneurs in London are from the EU, I think you could get a 50% entrepreneurs in London being from the EU. Like, it's been this incredible flow of people going to London to start companies, and it's part of the ecosystem.
And why do you think that happened? What did the UK do? Did they just go there, or did the UK government do anything to attract them?
Yeah, they did really good policies on tax, I think. And then they have a really good job market. Yeah, so I think a lot of EU citizens saw that. There's absolutely no border, so you can go.
So Natalia, what did you look at Startup Chile and what they had done? You know, could we see Startup Slovakia? You know, as a way of, I mean, you know, Chile wouldn't have been seen as one of the big countries in Latin America, but they've done something brave and it's been really successful. So, you know, Startup Slovakia. I mean, geographically, it's a kind of a place people can get to. You know, why not?
I'll just get back to what Liz was saying about let's bring everything to Estonia. We tried to replicate the e-commerce system in Slovakia, It cost us 20 times as much as in Estonia, and it doesn't work. So yes, I'm in it. We're moving to Estonia, but I don't think Slovakia will ever have great startup ecosystem, just because of its size and because it has access to Poland, it has access to Czech Republic, and it has access to the countries around. I think it should strive to connect it, as it was mentioned before, but I don't think it will ever be a standalone great ecosystem of its own.
Okay, and the Estonian delegation replies? I mean, apart from it costing 20 times as much and not working, I mean, are we just being defeatist?
I want to just say that I think that's this kind of a focus what you were talking about. That's not everybody should have everything. I agree with that. We just need to, as a countries, find the strengths. And yeah, it's the financial hub in London, maybe the IT center and e-solutions in Estonia. And Slovakia need to just find their own Nokia. We were looking for the Nokia until we
have
found Skype.
We have great technical talent. So we'll be the technical hub.
Yeah, one of Spain's best entrepreneurs is a guy in Barcelona called Marek, who's Slovakian, you know, and it's just an example. You're not getting him back though. He's we have a lot of use for him, so you're not getting him back. But it's just an example. I don't know. I was going to sort of have one kind of wrap up comment, just because. I always like to sort of end with this notion of like, what's the one thing you want to tell everyone? You know, now that you sort of have a microphone in your hand and an audience and things like that. Sort of, what's the one thing that people kind of get completely wrong about startups and Europe, and you know, or anything really indeed you want to say? Anyone want to jump in and say, you know, what really frustrates me that people get wrong? Anyone have anything that they really want to say to sort of wrap up the panel? I see a microphone moving.
I will say one thing. Czechoslovakia doesn't exist. Slovakia, okay? Just remember that.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, Slovakia doesn't exist. Anyone else want to have this big thing that really annoys them that everyone gets wrong?
Well, not exactly like that, but I'll finish with a comment and an invitation. So I think Europe, there's a lot of issues, right? But I think we're actually getting there, and even reflecting that we're 4 European citizens, all living in 4 different countries, right? And I think like that, right? You can live in Spain, get married in France, and have a business in Ireland. Some things are really, really good. I don't think we take enough advantage of it. But I think the issue for the startup world is that it's the same issue as always. We're not treating Europe as a single market, whereas we kind of should, and we're trying to. And that's the difference, I think, between Europe and the US and the opportunity for entrepreneurs. So for me, it's distribution. How can you get seamless distribution to 300 million customers across Europe, like you do in the US, right? With all its cultural nuances, which is what makes it awesome, right? So it's about figuring out distribution, and whether that's through government, EU Commission, or whether it's absolutely not, it's through corporates and gaining their access to customers. The digital space is a massive opportunity there, but it's busier and busier every other year. So that's my big question and challenge to everyone, is like, how can we sort out distribution across Europe? And of course, your invitation is to come join us at South Summit next October. We're South Summit in our part of the world, as we define it, is all across the Mediterranean, Latin America. So we would absolutely love to see you guys involved in participating there.
Okay, that's brilliant. Always a good thing to plug. Anyone got anything else they want to plug before we finish?
Yeah, I would like to maybe say that what I see that what is going on and what is going wrong in the big countries. For example, right now I'm in Germany. So they don't have the startup culture. So, and the startup mindset. In order to build the ecosystem for startups, it starts with a mindset. So mindset in a country, in a company, in every single individual. So let's start the change from ourselves.
Okay, brilliant. Right, Jospehine, anything quickly? Okay.
Just want to continue on this idea of distribution. Europe is an ecosystem in itself. It has cities, a network of cities that have verticals. So fintech is in London, and then you have other hubs for other things, right? One thing that we should all be worried is the Brexit, if it happens, which would put UK outside of the EU, which I don't think would work, and also Schengen. Schengen is in danger at the moment, and so we need to think of our ecosystems as a nation, but also in relation to other nations.
Okay, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank Liz. I'd like to thank Andra.
Shall we take
I'd like
a
to thank
selfie?
Jospehine. I'd like to thank
Let's take a
Natalia.
selfie.
It's been an absolute
Liz.
pleasure to moderate this panel, and let's go eat lunch. Thank you very much.